Welcome to Life Support Live, the weekly live show that explores how Star Trek can help us to boldly go in our own lives to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
Oh, wow. That is just what a former starship captain used to say. Former in the fact that they said it in reruns. But it's also reminds me of what another famous starship captain once said: wherever our mission takes us, we'll try to have a little fun along the way. We'll try to.
Just a wee bit. Just a wee bit of fun. Hello, everyone. I am psychologist Dr. Ali Mattu.
And I'm Dr. Trek Larry Nemecek. One of us is a real doctor.
We'll leave it to you to figure out who that might be, because we're still trying. We're 83 episodes in. We haven't quite figured that out yet. On this week's episode of Life Support Live, we are talking about high-stakes performances inspired by this week's episode of Star Trek Discovery. We'll be talking about a lot of diversity of examples this week. Larry, for folks who might be joining us for the first time, what is Life Support Live?
This is where you always ask me what Life Support Live is, and I always kind of sort of tell you. That's what it is.
That's very much this part right now.
But that's kind of meta. What really Life Support Live is this thing we do every week, most every week, where we look at Star Trek through a mental health lens, or we look at mental health through a Star Trek lens. And when I say mental health, I don't mean capital M, capital H. There's no quiz tomorrow. We have a lot of fun. We geek out on Trek, and hopefully you come away with some tips for daily living, and maybe we're all a little smarter, a little more aware, because my God, who can't appreciate a little more awareness these days? But no, we have a good time, and we have a wonderful community, wonderful audience. So if you're new to Life Support Live, check out the chat while you're listening to us, because the lifers are already hard at it.
They are, and Jarrod has posted the Life Support Live drinking game here. Take a drink whenever.
Not that we endorse overt, excess.
Caffeination. Anyone sings, anyone does an impression. Larry mentions McCoy. Anyone mentions Tapestry. Ollie brings up the Kelvin timeline. Anyone mentions plexing. Larry, we haven't done many of those things in a while.
We haven't done.
No,
I just did wasn't singing on there somewhere? I thought
singing's on there. Yeah. Anyone sings.
Singing old commercial theme jingles, so that's what I just did there. I was somehow inspired by Operation, but okay.
Well, there we go.
There we go.
No, and we're not color matched today. I am wearing engineering orange yellow. And
I am wearing Dr. Trek black with Dr. Trek hashtag.
Yeah.
But we're T-shirt matched. We're very rarely T-shirt matched.
That's true. So good to see you all here in the chat.
Halloween curve.
Yeah. What was that, Larry?
I said we're way ahead of the Halloween curve here.
Yeah. Actually, we
Halloween in February. Okay.
We both are. Let's open up that. Let's enter the briefing room. This is the part of the show where we are talking about stories from Star Trek that are related to this week's theme. And of course, this week we are inspired by the return of Season 4 Star Trek Discovery here, where there were actually two different high-stakes performances that were occurring, Larry. There was was it boxing? Was this just a freestyle fight?
I think it was free for all. This was what do they have? Mixed martial arts or?
Yeah. It was very mixed because it was on the outskirts of the galaxy there. I don't even know where in the galaxy we are at this point. But we're pretty.
They were in a not to be spoilers, because it didn't really sneak up on anybody, but they're on a casino roving barge,
yes,
out in the middle of no jurisdiction,
yes,
cloaked like a sea monster on an ocean.
They're in the outer territories. I mean, wait, no, the outer realm. No, I mean, gosh, they're out there
in the outer system. Whatever. Yeah.
So we had that match going on, and we also had a different
outer centuries.
We also had a different match involving a game of cards. And very, very high stakes indeed in that game of cards there. And so Larry and I were thinking, I had a little bit of Olympics on my mind too, Larry. My daughter has really gotten into figure skating. Um, so
Oh, okay. Look out.
so yeah, I know. I mean, watching it, not doing it.
Oh,
Let's be
okay.
honest. She has my genes. There's not a lot of athleticism coming from this, but it kind of got
There
me.
is no watch, only do. Okay.
You know, a topic we haven't actually talked about is these high stakes performances, because when you have to perform and there's a lot riding on it. That's a unique kind of situation that we haven't quite discussed. That many of us will have to do. We have to give presentations sometimes. We have to pretend to do something in some way sometimes, and there's a lot riding on it. So yeah, this is going to be a fun theme to explore. So let us know, folks, what you in the comments, as Larry loves to in the comments down here or over there, wherever the comments
Yeah,
might be. Yeah, wherever you're.
wherever fine comments are sold. Okay.
So let's talk about it, and let's start with the most important comment here from Andrew. Larry and Ali would be a great ice dancing duo.
Not if you've ever seen me on the ice, which you haven't because it only exists in an alternate universe, and I would think that would be a stretch. So,
If you have ever seen, okay, Larry, I want you to imagine a giraffe.
closest I was to that was once we were with the one time we got the kids to New York City, we were at Rockefeller Center on the ice rink, and
Oh
we
yeah.
enjoyed watching the kids out trying to ice skate. That was yeah.
Larry, if you want to see what it looks like for me to ice skate, I want you to imagine a giraffe, and I want you to imagine this giraffe is on ice for the first time, and now someone has put skates on this giraffe. That is what I would look like if I'm ice skating.
You're in a beginning giraffe color there, so it's getting
That's
easier
true.
for
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
All of this is it's all in theme. So yeah, Larry, let's talk about our examples. We've got a lot.
Well,
Yeah, please.
we've got a lot of examples. Can I just say though, this was kind of interesting because we kind of went to this topic right off the bat.
Hmm.
But I think originally your idea was to say, oh, like performing under pressure or whatever. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, that happens every week. And then we
Yes.
we kind of went, we were leaning into sports, and then we said, oh, well, acting, and then it was really easy to just throw out all the acting and all the sporting events. It was just a clickbait list of the 42 times you saw sports as a star. And I was like, we should put some guardrails on it. And I thought, it needs to be, we were saying life and death performances, not just, oh, it's another poker game on the D. You know, it needs to be something because if our inspiration is coming out of Discovery, that wasn't just la di da hobby times there with the mixed martial
La-di-da,
arts or the
hobby.
poker game.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
That's a new phrase.
No.
La di da hobby. Hello and welcome to la di da hobby time with Dr. Trey. But you know what I mean? So I think I was like, we've got to get our arms around there so this could go on all day. And I think I think we got to what we were really talking about, which is we see people performing athletically, dramatically. They're doing something maybe outside their own skin or something to a higher level, but what's riding on it? Is it life and death? Is it the fate of the galaxy? So let's go from there. Because if we're talking about our Starfleet heroes or our Starfleet adjacent heroes, that's something that mimics, like you said, the inspiration being from the Olympics. And you know what? We've seen in the summer and in the Winter Olympics this year something you just mentioned, which is the pressure, even of high stakes performers who are at that level, things blow up. And we've had some of that just in the Winter Olympics too. And then a whole discussion about mental health around that
Yeah, and there's been
and moving forward.
I mean, Simone Biles in the United States has sort of jump-started a greater conversation about mental health and our athletes and what we sort of push them towards collectively as a community. But this is Star Trek, so let's talk Star Trek. And
Well, okay.
sorry, Larry. You know what happened to me the other day, Larry?
What happened the other day,
Yeah, I
Ollie?
was just coughing right now because I took too much of a gulp of coffee. But The other day, I was riding my bike to pick up my daughter. The weather's been beautiful, so I was picking her up
Mm.
from her preschool on my
We're
bike.
having a heat wave,
Yeah, we are having a heat wave. Yeah,
tropical heat wave.
yeah, it's
Temperatures rising. It isn't surprising.
right.
Certainly can. Go Trek. Okay.
I was biking to pick her up, and I swallowed a bug on the way to pick up my daughter. And I got there, and I was coughing because I swallowed this bug. And then I was like, "Oh no, everyone's gonna think I have COVID." And so I was trying not to cough, but I couldn't get rid of this feeling, right? And then I finally stopped coughing. I got my daughter, I put her on the bike. We're riding back, and then on the way riding back, a bug flew up my nose. Like what was going on that day?
You're just you're just you're just a bug magnet.
I
You're
was,
just
I
yeah.
was. They kept
Yeah.
bugging me. Um, and someone said here we are dressed up in
Oh,
bumblebee
bumblebee.
colors. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
guess that. Although Jr. says also engineering in section 31. Thank you, Jr. for going with the Star Trek reference. All right, let's talk Star Trek. We posted this in the Facebook, and we got some great Facebook comments as well. There was a original series episode, Balance of Terror, thinking about having to perform as a hold on, let me see if I can get the exact comment here. I want to get.
Balance of terror.
I think it was Balance
Okay.
of Terror. Let me see. Hold on. Um,
Having to perform as an officiant at a wedding ceremony in a battle?
am I?
Okay.
Am I? What's the episode where Kirk had to pretend to be a Romulan? That's not Balance.
Enterprise incident.
Enterprise Incident. Thank you.
That's it. End of the show. You're exposed.
Balance of Terror is not that. But I'm trying to see
Balance of fandom.
who
Okay.
I'm trying to find who made this. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is Charlotte's comment. TOS, the Enterprise incident. Spock's
Yes, I thought of that.
manipulation
Yeah.
of the Romulan commander. I think that's kind of one example that we're going for is times where you have to perform a certain way. There's a lot riding on it. But Larry, you had another example from
I had,
TOS.
the first. Well, okay, fine. Say it first. I was, I was going to say another one like that would be, but that's an example. But what we're talking about
Aaron of
here is
Mercy.
performing the athletic. Yeah, Aaron to Mercy is this, but it's basically and what we just had there was performing like a covert operation where you're undercover and you're performing another character. Oh, look, it's not. I mean, it's not Barclay drama with director, the dancing doctor directing you. It's life and death drama where you're infiltrating, you're playing another role. It's high stakes role play. But yeah, where they get away with it up to Kirk and Spock get away with it up to for a while under the Klingon occupation of I can't talk today. The Klingon occupation of Organia there, and the Organians know what they are, but the Klingons don't until they see that they're not sheep like the rest of the population seems to be. But yeah, that whole thing. And there's a couple more. I didn't want to lean in totally to that because when we were talking about coming out of the Olympics and performing, and we thought of sports first, I was trying to go, where does that go in the original series? And I guess the one is like the gamesters of Triskelion. I don't even say Triskelion anymore. I just say gamesters. But gamesters are Triskelion when they're in combat. A little bit
Oh,
like
sure.
Ocean had to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they were fighting for their lives and their freedom.
Yeah.
It wasn't a higher. Well, that's pretty high order. But budgets were what they were for stunt people. But yeah, that's kind of. I tried not to go into two lanes, but that's kind of what we were settling into here. But
Yeah.
I wanted to remember the Errand of Mercy as much as I did say the Enterprise incident moment there with Kirk.
And we try 83 episodes in, we try really hard not to pick the obvious examples, or the examples that we've talked about a lot.
The obvious.
The obvious, yes. I love neologisms. But Amok Time is another one that comes to mind. There's two different big performances happening. Spock is trying to win that combat with Kirk, and Kirk is really trying to make it seem like he is also trying to win, and McCoy is also trying to make it seem like Kirk is really dying. So there's a lot happening there.
Thank you for including McCoy there. But
I
yes,
would.
who without McCoy the whole show would have been, yeah.
I think that's a line in the drinking game there, Larry.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. So that's another example here where there's
He
a
just
lot.
got above the line billing. He had to start proving himself really quick.
Yes, and you have to you have to you have to. There's a lot riding on those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's why we call it high stakes.
That's why we call it high stakes.
Let me change my mic here a little bit. Okay. Maybe that's a little better too on miking.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Our community. Haha, he's bugged. So they're both section 31. That's probably what happened. Section 31.
That's probably what happened.
They got
they put it's a bug in the bug. Is actually it's a time travel back to. But yeah, okay. Are we done with the original series? Should we move on?
I'm trying to see in our comments if we had more.
Oh yeah,
more sort of writing here. Steve mentioned Star Trek 3, and I think there is a little bit of performance there. Stealing the Enterprise. Our senior staff, what's left of them, they do have to mislead people in different ways. So I think that's an example.
a little subterfuge.
Yes.
A little misdirection. Yes. Or misdirection, as we'd say today. Okay.
But let's jump forward to TNG. And Larry, I want to share the first example that came to my mind. Of course, one of the greatest. What's wrong with me today?
I don't know. I think it's just obvious what's going on.
One of the greatest competitions between two humanoids, the best determination of strength, agility, mental fortitude,
and cosplay.
And cosplay. Of course, I'm talking about Ambujitsu.
Jitsu. Yes. The dopey game where you're the athlete, supposedly. Okay. You're the fighter.
So,
I don't know why concentration is my theme song. There we go.
If we talk about the actual context of this episode, this is Riker and his dad. This is a game that the two of them played throughout their life. And William Riker does not have the greatest relationship with his father. And this is this all sort of comes to a head. The Icarus factor, right, is this episode. And,
yes.
So I want it's high stakes. It's
flying too close to the sun there.
Oh yeah, a little on the nose, that title. This episode, it's not high stakes in terms of what's going to happen to the Enterprise. It is.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it is high stakes for William Riker. Not Thomas. Don't worry about him. He's still on the planet.
We've gone very formal today. William Riker. Wow. Okay. No free will for you.
I'm trying to enunciate because apparently I'm failing at that today. So Will,
but yes,
it's high stakes for Will. He wants to prove himself.
It's not life and death. It's not the galaxy, but it's their relationship. So it's their
relationship. And I mean, I'll talk about this in the counselor's log though, in a little bit. But I don't think Will's performance is quite the best here. As when it comes to Ambujitsu, when it comes to his athletic ability, he seems a bit emotionally compromised, doesn't he?
Oh, you mean like actually watch the show again?
If you actually watch the athleticism on display here.
Yeah.
Well,
it was only second season. They couldn't hire the best stunt people yet. So
no, what I'm trying to get at here.
It's a bit of that, yeah.
What I'm trying to get at here is it's so personal for Will. He's so angry at his dad that I don't think he's playing his best game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yes, it's a dramatic device, and they use that to illustrate it. That he's younger, he should be the better, athlete. He's got the emotional motivation of, hey, old man, the student is now the teacher, kind of. But it's still not working because he's emotionally. I know, it was like you're just making me remember that this is actually. I always say, like, to me, the Riker character wasn't born until Best of Both Worlds. It's like he was just kind of, he was just, chair overstepper guy for a long time, with and without beard, and he didn't really kind of start developing. And it's not Frakes' fault. It was kind of like make the most of something between the lines. But this is a moment where they were coming so close in the second season. They were almost there on a few people, trying to put some meat on the bones of these characters, and that was a moment that was like the lone moment for Riker, because the whole thing of playing out the relationship with Troy, the first, like, the kind of climax with Haven was like, okay, fine, but this was a chair overstepper guy. Yes, TM, trademark. Thanks, Charlotte.
Chair overstepper guy.
What are the memes of Riker before Best of Both Worlds? It's either that or it's maybe having to shoot Rudia 3 times when that's in what was it, the High Ground? Not the High Ground. The Vengeance Factor. The plant.
Yeah.
In the
yeah. That episode.
In the official delegation. I was shocked when he had they let him shoot her 3. I know it was a dramatic thing to say, here's how tough she is. But on just the watching a show with your kids in the room, it was like, wow, they let him shoot her 3 times. Anyway, but yeah, that was a great. I'm remembering that this is a lot bigger Riker show than I was led to believe that I remembered.
Yeah, I mean, it also established a lot.
I was thinking it was the B plot, but it's the A plot.
Yeah,
it's yeah.
Yeah. It's also establishing a lot of his backstory, where he grew up in Alaska. His relationship with his father, and introducing us to the epic sport of Ambu Jitsu, the greatest competition in the 24th century, which we saw again. Mariner's really the champion at this.
Yes. Ambu Jitsu, the dopey game where you're wearing red or white. Okay.
Ambu Jitsu. You play Ambu Jitsu, human. You talk and you talk, but you have no Ambu Jitsu. Moving right along here.
Ambu Jitsu is gay forbidden. No. I don't know where that came from, but okay.
I know exactly.
That was inspired by you, if that's a thing.
I know exactly where that came from. And getting back to our comments here from yesterday, we had this one was also coming from Charlotte. Charlotte, you got great examples in your comment. I like this one a lot, Larry. This was not one that I thought of. Gambit, Picard impersonation of a criminal, and Riker's subsequent performance as a rogue Starfleet officer. See also Troy's first impersonation of a Romulan in Face of the Enemy.
Mm-hmm. Face the Enemy.
I like Face of the Enemy.
I had Face the Enemy on my little short list here too. But yes, but totally Gambit. Yes.
Gambit is
2 levels.
Yeah. Gambit is one of those surprising ones because it's not really a situation I would expect to see Jean-Luc
It's an overlooked classic. Yes.
Let's not go that far. It's an okay episode.
It's a sweeps month, 2-parter. Okay.
It is a fun 2-parter, I think. Maybe. Cool models in that episode. Cool starship models that are used.
Well, it was space pirates. Gene's thing for the show was like, no space pirates, and that was the time they finally said, oh, look, we're doing space pirates. Never say never.
Is that season 7 or season 6, Gambit?
6.
Yeah. So they waited a while for that one to come out. So Gambit's a good one, and Gambit's a good prelude actually to what we see in Star Trek
Oh,
Picard.
I'm sorry. You know what? The minute I said that, I was like, wait a minute. No, it's early. I knew it
It's
wasn't
early
late
seven,
season.
right?
It's the fall. Yeah, it's the fall.
Yeah.
It's the fall end of season 7.
Yeah.
It's the October sweeps,
Yeah.
not the February or April.
Yeah. It just
People are
gave
going,
me.
what?
It gave
What is
me
he
a
talking?
Larry. It gave me a sniff of season 7. Gambit.
Just totally cut loose there. And ooh,
Oh.
look at that makeup budget on 4 different aliens. Whatever. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Gambit's a bit of a prelude to what we see in Star Trek Picard, where Picard and crew there are also impersonating different roles of these high rollers, also at another casino type of environment. And we've seen Jean-Luc do more of these Black Ops missions, like what's the
Chain of command.
chain of
where
command
he's,
is what I was thinking.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So
Where he gets strung up for it. Right.
so one of the things we see, at first when I saw that episode of Star Trek Picard, I thought it was a little strange, a little over the top, trying to be funny, not so much. But when we connect the tapestry here of Jean-Luc's Black Ops missions, he has at several points in his career pretended to be someone else for a covert operation, and he has done infiltration of the Cardassians. He has withstood being tortured. He is someone who actually very much knows how to perform in these high stakes situations, and I've got some theories as to why that. Hopefully, I'll get to in the counselor's log.
He survived his big brother. That's how he.
That's
That
how
was
he
the
did
original.
it. Robert. And he's done pretty well in these kind of situations, which makes that moment in Star Trek Picard where has to play this ridiculous character. It makes it not so much out of character, actually, when you connect the dots here.
Yeah, and they always made sure to. That was one thing that didn't come over. They showed Picard having a Shakespeare interest, but you always assume, and you always get the idea it was literary. It was scholarly academic interest, not performative, because he has to be, he's being coached by Data. So it's not like, when he's doing his Scrooge scene on the holiday. No, it's Data doing he's doing coaching, but we never see Picard like formally portraying anything. You see Crusher in a theater scene. You see, Barclay, and you see Riker doing a play, before it goes bonkers. But and you see the gang, in time travel in Time's Arrow. They're all portraying characters in their role.
Yeah, I
in
love Time's Arrow.
Yeah. Where they all get to run around in 1890s, costumes. But they never portray Picard as this. Oh, like maybe a great archaeologist, maybe a great this and that, but they don't. They give him a Shakespeare interest, but they don't say he's a great thespian. You know what I mean? They show him being coached and directed into trying to be a basic thespian, community theater level actor. So I'm glad they didn't. But when the chips are down and he's having to just role play the life out of something to save himself or save the galaxy, he's up to that task. As anyone who is crewing the flagship of the fleet must be, apparently. So
Jared says, "Now, Larry, surely you're not downplaying Picard's great performance from Menage a Troy."
I am not. I'm putting it right in the box where it belongs.
He really hammed it up for the Ferengi there. That was great. And Jared's he's on a roll here. Earlier he said Picard pretending to be someone who doesn't love Bev. Yes, I agree with that one, Larry. There's so yeah, we've got Picard here, but there's Dan mentioned the first duty. And I think when anyone mentions First Duty, my first duty is to say how much I love that episode as one of my favorites. And so what's interesting about this is we have a group of cadets who are trying to perform very high stakes maneuver. A few centimeters the wrong way, and a little too much exhaust thrust being ignited at the wrong point, and the entire squadron, the entire team is in a dangerous situation, and we actually see that one cadet
Yeah,
loses.
it's an outlawed maneuver.
It's
I mean, it's
outlawed.
high stakes, right?
It's
So
outlawed
that's why.
because it's so high stakes. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And so the episode
I
really,
mean, it's more dangerous than importing Romulan ale, apparently. So,
which everyone does. I feel like
which everyone.
every you can't be a part of senior staff unless you've got a stash of Romulan ale. It seems like, oh, Romulan ale, is it not
You have
banned?
resources. Right.
Oh yes, of course it's banned. That's why I have some.
Yeah.
So, what I think is interesting about mentioning the first duty here is not only is that a band maneuver, but it's also being performed by people who are younger. And so, one of the things we know, your frontal lobe, this part of your brain, the part of your brain that really controls a lot of decision making, helps you put on the brakes for intense emotions. It helps you to think through the consequences. It doesn't really finish till your mid-20s. And I know we got different species. Are there non-humans on that team?
There's Bajoran. Cedo is Bajoran.
Right. So you have people who are not humans, and we know that their brains might develop at different paces, but it's
I'm sure she had some kind of like occupation trauma, when she was 8 or something. So
that would be
12.
Star Trek. But even there, I think the times that people go to the academy are still probably the times where they're younger. Because one of the advantages of not having a fully developed frontal lobe is you can actually, sometimes it makes it easier to learn things and you form associations faster and all that sort of stuff. So they probably all go to the academy when they're on the younger side, which means they probably haven't finished their brain development. This is all to say that performing a high stakes maneuver when you are younger and your frontal lobe is not fully developed, you might be a little bit more risk taking. And you might have a little bit harder time managing some of the emotions that come up there. Larry, this is something that is being...
I was going to say, we were talking about Simone Biles, but
Exactly.
all of these gymnasts, especially the women
Exactly.
gymnasts that are teenagers, and we just had this, now she's in the middle of this doping scandal, but this Russian figure skater that's 14 or 15, and I've seen the blowback that even if she was using this drug, people blaming the adults around her, for either knowingly or stupidly trying to, cheat her through or whatever, or get her over the hump. But anyway, yeah, there's all kinds of young, it's, depending on the sport, there's all kinds of young athletes participating at an Olympic level.
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about is...
Well, then I'll let you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Trek. This is it's a hard thing for us to figure out because we are, especially in things like the Olympics, we've changed the scores for some of these events. So like figure skating, where younger and younger people excel more with the rules that we've put in place. And so what is our responsibility as a society for putting people who don't have the fully developed ability to make decisions in high stakes environments and who are not adults yet, so legally there's some decisions they can't make. It's a very and then what are the consequences of having people who have been in those high stakes environments where we're asking people to put themselves at risk year after year, and then somehow they become adults and we're expecting like this all to kind of work out okay? Like I'm thinking about in America, we have the NFL, there's a Super Bowl this Sunday. I think the same exact thing applies. The research here on concussions is quite concerning. And it's not...
It's okay. They have the new helmets, Ali. It's fine.
Yeah. And it's not... one of the things that's been
penalties.
shown in the research is it's not the actual concussions that are the greatest risk, but it's the frequent hits that people take. And so if we start this when people are young and they're still developing, there's very uncomfortable questions we have to entertain as a society about these sports that we watch and enjoy, and what are the consequences to the athletes. So I'll walk back from the soapbox because I know it's an uncomfortable one, but
well, you left out the other big thing. It's if we're tying it to contemporary times, or like the timing right now. Valentine's Day's coming up. Oh my God! Talk about high stakes performancing there. Yes, I said
wonk.
It's a combination of perform and romancing.
Performancing. Well, yeah, you could. I'll tie it. I'll pick up what you're putting down here, Larry. Okay. One of the big changes that in the United States, again, that's happened. Do you know what it's like to ask someone to the prom now, Larry? You have to do prom proposals. You have to do this big...
Let me guess. It has to be like a TikTok or something.
It has to be TikTok worthy. It has to be this big show of asking someone out. So there's a lot of pressure on that. Whereas just
Jumbotron proposals, in a stadium.
Yeah, and this used to be not a thing. When I went to school, you just sort of asked someone.
Like gender reveal parties.
Oh my God!
Here's a car.
Those
baby.
are so stupid.
Yeah.
Those are so stupid.
No, but I mean, taking an ordinary thing that used to be a thing. Hey, it's a boy, and you get a little card in the mail, and then it turned into this big, the big production that can burn a town down.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But yeah, the way we take little things and blow them up into huge things.
As Andrew says, Ollie's Soapbox is brought to you by Zest. Yes, you too can be zestfully clean. I'm zestfully clean. You're not fully clean.
You're zestfully clean. Yeah.
We really need to get some sponsors here on this show, Larry. We're so good with the jingles.
Now we say that 83 shows in. Maybe that would have changed a few things.
Well, Larry, let's move forward here with another wonderful example from Star Trek. Our man Bashir. Now Bashir is really one for performances.
Is that blown out for everybody?
I can do a pan and scan, Larry.
I was gonna say, can you pan and scan?
I can pan and scan. Check it out. There we go. Look at this motley crew we have over here.
You could have just made the whole thing small, but nope, we're going to pan it.
I kind of don't know how to. I'm worried about accidentally pressing other buttons if I do that. Okay. So one could say that Bashir's entire career is one big performance. He is constantly playing someone who is not genetically engineered and doesn't have all of these things. So, and that is very high stakes, because if it's revealed that he is genetically engineered, well, not only will his career potentially be at risk, but so would his parents. And that kind of happens, Larry.
Thank goodness that never happened.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, man, I'd love that episode too.
That would be life uplifting. Okay. Uprooting. Yeah. Disruptive.
One of the other things about Bashir is he loves to play these roles of the secret agent man. Secret.
Can I tell you, when I was a little kid, I thought they were saying secret Asian man?
A lot of people, I think, did. Yeah, which makes that song much more problematic and strange. Yes.
No, he's obviously English, so why are they saying that's how secret Asian he is? He doesn't look at all Asian. Okay.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a problem. So in Our Man Bashir, if I remember correctly, Larry, the holosuite has run awry.
Actually, now this is the thing they were so proud of, and Bob Gillen was this. Oh, K3. So Janet's counterpart on DS9 pitched this show. This was DS9's prophecy. Ooh, it was the show pitched by an assistant script coordinator. Now there's a deep dive for you. Our Man Bashir was the one holodeck gone wrong show where it was not the holodeck's fault. The holodeck was actually, remember, the holodeck was actually the lifesaver, because everybody in the program was on a runabout that blew up. And the life and what's going on?
I pressed the wrong button. Sorry.
Oh,
I was trying to pull up our comments
I'm
and I accidentally pulled up our video.
Yeah. No, I'm making they were so proud of this because for once it was not the holodeck screwing up. The holodeck was the thing that saved everyone instead of put them in danger. But the ticking clock, the threat was they had to keep they had everybody's patterns in the pattern buffer, and they had merged in with this scenario they happened to be playing. So the trick, that was the only malfunction, but it was just because the memory buffer in the entire damn station was sucked up by all these, like, what is it, 6 or 7 live action people. So to keep them alive, it put them into this holodeck scenario. And the trick was, the ticking clock, thing was, they had to play out the scenario, keep it going long enough so that Rom and his spatula
Yes.
and everybody who was not sucked into the scenario could fix the holodeck, could get their patterns out successfully into a transporter and beam them back into their form.
Yes.
So that was the only thing. They had the life and death situation was that Garrick and Bashir had to keep role playing. They had to keep dancing as fast as they could to give the other ones everybody outside time to Rom. I'm sure Libby's going to jump in on this to let them save everyone. But in this case, the holodeck was the lifesaver, not the life endangerer.
Yeah.
Which adds to fun. And plus it was
right.
a fun show. Way over budget and win a day overtime, but it's because of all the revolving door, the bed, and all the gags and all the spy stuff. But yeah.
No, that's a good point, Larry. That's a very good point.
Well, it's the right point. So okay. It's a fact. It's a fact. Okay.
It's a fact. Computer, delete this entire life support live. So it's a great episode there. I really love I love this episode. And Zahir had a related comment here. Mine has to be bada bing, bada bang. So different holosuite kind of story. But he talks about it reminds me of the importance of distraction from trauma, whether from war, injury, or intergenerational, and the duet at the end. The duet is quite good. But we see the holosuite used so often.
Not the Amun Maritza Butcher of Galatep duet. But
Yes. Yeah. Not that.
Not the duet, but the best is yet to come, and it was fine. Yes.
And Libby also mentioned Take Me Out to the Holosuite, the baseball game. And so this was also like Riker.
Yeah.
It's personal stakes. It's very personal for Sisko and the other Vulcan that he's served
Is it
with.
Solok? Is that who it was?
I mean, that sounds like a Vulcan name. Yes. Let's go with that.
Sounds like a Vulcan. Okay.
Jim, it sounds like a hobgoblin Vulcan to me.
That was 137-year-old McCoy from the pilot of Farpoint.
I don't know what the hell I was doing.
I don't see no points on your ears. He's talking to Data, and he says, I don't see points on your ears, boy, but you sound like a Vulcan. It's that swallow the southern accent McCoy thing. Does it ring a bell now?
It's a little foghorn leghorn, but sure, we'll go with.
He's 137. Let him have his foghorn leghorn moments. I said, let him have his foghorn leghorn moments. Actually, on point here, you were mentioning that, but Nathaniel had a comment here about Jake back at 1034 also.
Yeah. I saw that. Let me see. Nathaniel, the problem with your comments is they always make me think a lot and have to reflect a lot. So
slows down the show.
Stop asking such thoughtful questions and making such
down the show to us.
Yeah, stop making such reflective points here. Nathaniel said Jake had several failures in high stakes performances. The Visitor and nor the Battle to the Strong. In the former, future Jake switched careers midlife to earn a doctorate in theoretical physics. This would have made him one of 2 characters in the franchise who have earned an academic doctorate, Jarrod being the other. And along with his writing career, let me bring this back up. Along with his writing career, would have made him the most intellectually rounded main character. That's true. His attempt to get back Cisco, his dad, had obvious emotional stakes to it, but it also reflected his inability to see his scientific ideas fulfilled. NTBTTS shows Jake failing
Nor
to
the
real.
battle to the strong.
That's what that is.
The
Failing
red
to
badge
realize.
courage of DS9. Yeah.
Yeah, failing to realize heroism in himself, and not until he realizes the thin line between cowardice and courage.
Mhm.
Wow, I concur, Nathaniel. I concur. Um,
Like the Supreme Court statement that we concur.
yeah,
Period. That's the whole.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's the brief tweet.
It's
Yeah.
the shadow court of Life Support Live. I mean, put it that way, Larry. Jake is someone who has dealt with a lot of high stakes performances and a lot of high stakes failures. I would argue in The Visitor, he's ultimately doesn't fail. He ultimately succeeds in The Visitor. But he's also, writers love to write writers, and they do a real good job of them. And one of the things we see with Jake is Jake having to grapple with creative failures and having to work through that. In that horrible episode with the Muse, who's like absorbing Jake's like creative powers for her own fuel. But one of the consistent threads here is Jake is trying to find his voice as a writer and often struggling to do so. And so writing, much like other forms of arts, these are performances. And just like a blank canvas or stage fright or a blank piece of paper, these are all can feel like very high stake performing situations. So we see Jake encountering that frequently throughout the show, actually. Well taken, Nathaniel.
And I was back scrolling here, and Louise A on YouTube at 1041 said one that I was, in my whole, everybody should know that everything about Trekland is all about trying not to do the obvious or go to the thing under discussed. And, well, I'm doing that, Charlotte, because I'm doing it for Ali.
The timestamps, yes.
Yeah, the time stamping. I do that for him so he can madly find it to put it up since he controls
I
it.
thought you'd do it because we want to just keep the time space continuum in line.
No, I'm never for. I don't want to bring the world order. Okay.
You know what they say about time, Larry? It is the fire in which we burn.
Time is the fire in which we have no time to talk about the time being the fire in which we burn. No,
I thought it was
Louise,
the thing that in which we churn, like butter.
Yes. Yes.
Smooth
Yes.
like butter.
In a bar with Canar. Okay. Quark and Move Along Home, which was the one I was going to bring out of left field. So she had, yes, there we go. See, at 1041 helped you, right? Way back there. No, Quark, yes, the point of the show, aside from seeing what happens when your script gets cut by 50% on budget, you wind up with Alan Moraine mania. But Quark doesn't know that it's not for life and death. Quark thinks he's making life and death decisions where all these people that he's just met barely in this stupid game, and he's putting them through all these paces, and he thinks it's the Wadi. Oh my God, the Wadi are so melodramatic that he assumes we're replaying the most dangerous game or something here, where it's not with tokens. Where they're not. It's just a game, and then they'll all bot back when we're done. But he thinks it's life and death, so he's sweating every move. So yeah, Quark thinks it's life and death decisions, and he's relieved when it's not. But he wants to go punch those people, I'm sure, when it's over.
There are so many DS9 examples here because it is the best series. But another one from Charlotte I want to mention is Honor Among Thieves, when O'Brien goes undercover to infiltrate the Orion Syndicate.
Yes.
That is massive stakes here. And it's funny we're mentioning that episode and not any of the stuff that that Julian does when he's actually doing the Section 31 stuff. Because I think Julian's approach to Section 31 is, well, I won't go along with any of this, and I will tell everyone what I am doing. And Section 31 is like, excellent, exactly what we wanted. You have walked.
Everything is going to plan with you, Julian.
Yeah, the emperor walks out and goes, yes, this is all as I have foreseen.
I'm pretty naked, yes.
But O'Brien is actually engaging in covert ops here. He is really trying to befriend, what's his name?
Bilby?
Bilby.
Wow, I'm pulling these out of my butt today.
You're pulling him out of that that wormhole of yours.
That's starting to get a little personal, isn't it, sir? All right. I'm sorry. I went to Python for a moment. Yeah, you know what? But my mind immediately had to go to, you remember Bilby. I'm trying to remember Bilby's cat's name that O'Brien takes home.
I don't know, Larry, but families are important. That's it. All I remember.
It's our family cats. Someone's going to pop. I won't look it up. Someone will pop it up here.
And Libby also mentioned.
It's not Malcolm.
Libby also mentioned The Magnificent Ferengi is another episode involving a lot of high stakes performances.
Yes.
And I think
playing like they're heroes. Yes.
I think that's all the big DS9 examples. Oh, Eddington. Eddington.
Huh?
Yeah. That's Eddington really pretending to play the role of this Starfleet officer when in fact he is working for the Maquis towards the end of his career there. That's another great example here. There's so much here, and I will end our DS9 discussion by seriously responding to Libby's question of is Damar and Quark's bar with Kanar high stakes? Absolutely, it is, because
by far.
What it leads to is the Cardassian insurrection and rebellion against the Dominion. And it does involve high-stake performances because, again, Damar, after he has that Kanar in the bar, thinks from afar how he might...
Fish a gar?
Yes, how he might orchestrate that rebellion. So and then pretend to still be in the Dominion while he's doing it. So a lot of high stakes performances in DS9, and you wouldn't have it any other way. On to Voyager.
For the course. Okay.
On to Voyager, Larry. There's one episode that kind of comes to mind here.
Yeah, and it's a little the same as Our Man Bashir but they're a little bit different. They're in a holodeck that's a life and death issue. Well, not so much life and death, but there's aliens that have mistaken a holodeck for for an invasion, for a first contact.
This is Bride of Chaotica, right?
This is Bride of Chaotica, right. No, and do not adjust your set. There's nothing wrong with your color. I still love the Doctor's little pendant that says the President of Earth. The little patch on his blazer. But no, I mean they're having to. They're the Proton holo program had been a thing for a couple of episodes. Yeah, Dr. Proton, but Captain Proton, but had been a thing for a while. But this one was revolving around. They had to keep playing it out, and they had to bow down to the characters' 1930s over-the-top serial, bad acting sci-fi routine because some other aliens were convinced that was the reality, not the Voyager crew, and so they had to go in. And it's you get all the fun moments of Janeway playing the Queen, Queen Arachne, and all that over-the-top goofy stuff, but they all had to go through with it, and at the end there they actually get into it and play out the characters the way they're playing. But they finally convince the aliens that they're on their side and they're defeated, so they can leave peacefully. And So it was a high stakes. Every week on Voyager was high stakes. Oh God, it's somebody else we don't know. Can't we coast along a little bit besides with the Herosian or the Kazon, or the Vidians?
Larry, I prefer specificity. If you're gonna talk about Kazons, tell me which sect. Are we talking Kazon Ogla? Are we talking Kazon the other one?
There's
the
like
Nilstrom?
I'm talking about the Kazon Palmer.
The Kazon Palmer?
Yeah.
What about the Kazon Gargantuans?
You know what I just realized they could have had a whole thing about the Kazon first, the Kazon second, and the Kazon third. I don't know.
The Kazon third? Who's on second? Oh, the Kazon second. Kazon second's on first.
Yeah.
That would have been a good
they
DS9
don't have-
crossover because the Ciscos could have been involved there. They would have loved talking baseball.
I was going to say, yeah, we could have had the original guys. Abbott and Costello could have been Starfleet people. Yeah, Abbott and Costello meet the Negus. Okay.
So Dave says Voyager's high-stakes performance involved the crew suffering through Neelix's cooking, all the while smiling. It's not coffee, but it's my own concoction.
Yeah. Voyager's high stakes was all the Maquis acting like they cared about being Starfleet for 7 years. Yeah.
There are some great examples here. Dan says False Prophets is an example where they're not quite our heroes here, but they are playing the part with some horrible cosplay uniforms.
It's Chakotay in Paris, right? Yeah.
Yes. We also have Nathaniel says high stakes. Jerry Ryan playing Picardo as the Doctor is being forced to hide in Seven's body. Talk about parallels. So, but not parallels.
Yes.
Because that's a great episode of TNG.
That's as Janet used to call it, multiple. She'd say, "Could you put on multiple wharfs?" That was her name for it. Yeah. For a long time, that was her episode she went to sleep with. Not because it was boring, but because she enjoyed it, but she knew it. Yeah.
It's such a great, joyful episode. Multiple wharfs. I like that.
That was her thing. But that was parallels. What you're talking now, I forgot what we were talking about. It was
we're talking about Voyager. We're talking about when Seven had to. Or when the Doctor was playing Seven?
Body and Soul.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Not to be confused with Flesh and Blood, which was right next to it in order.
The Voyager episode names are actually a little, sometimes a little confusing to kind of keep them.
But it was a great Jerry. I was thinking about this the other day. That one and the episode where she's breaking down and all of the Borg assimilated personalities that were in her memory well or breaking out, and she's playing a Ferengi. It's almost she's almost playing a Ferengi throwback to the Last Outpost. She's hanging around like a monkey, jumping up on the holographic platform for astrometrics that they never used. It was built to be a hologram projector, and they never used it for a hologram projector. Well, they did kind of later, but anyway. Yeah, Jerry Ryan's acting skill is amazing.
Yes.
Everybody thought,
oh my gosh. Absolutely.
And she did but the thing where she's impersonating Picardo playing the Doctor in her body is amazing.
Yeah.
And a lot of fun.
No, she's so good, and as Charlotte says, Jerry's impersonation of Bob Picardo is a work of art. It was enough tipping the hat without making fun of it. It was the right line. Is really wonderful.
Yeah.
Enterprise. Scott has a great example from.
Thank you.
From
because
Enterprise.
By the time I got to Enterprise and Lower Decks, I was like, I know they're there. I'm just tired.
It is. If anyone is wondering behind the scenes, Larry and I we come up with a topic and then we outline some kind of foundational examples that we can kind of talk about, and usually those then lead to other smaller examples. But we do go in series order. We usually start with TOS, TNG, DS9, Voyager, and then we get to Enterprise, and we tend to be tired because it is later in the night, and we're like, ah. Oh, well, it's been a long road, Larry. Let's go to bed.
Yeah.
But Scott's got a great example here. Thank you, Scott. How about Carbon Creek?
That's the one I thought later on, but I wasn't going to go back and pull an image. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
The Vulcans
One of the rare times this happens in Enterprise.
Yeah, the Vulcans are basically forced to live incognito for the rest of their lives to blend in with the humans. And don't go listening to that music, because you might get a little emotional here. Yeah, this is this is a great episode on many different levels, and it shows how it's high stakes because you don't want to mess up first contact and all that sort of stuff. You don't want to mess with these primitive humans. But the other thing is they have to act in a way that runs so contrary to their culture. They have to feel a little bit more emotional and a little bit more flexible than Vulcans usually do.
I wonder who the Vulcan god of drama is, of acting, but yeah. It's not.
Oh, man. A Vulcan theatrical performance would be... Could you imagine Vulcans doing Shakespeare? Or any Broadway show ever?
Could.
Whoa.
I'm sure we have folks in the chat who will pop up some examples, I'm sure. Candidates.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, what would a Vulcan production of Rent be like,
I was just thinking about
I was thinking Rent too, because they've got numbers, and so they might be into that.
I was trying to think of the damn song.
Yeah, 5,000.
Where's Anthony when we need him? Come jump in.
Yeah, I know. He would help us out with some of those voicemails. Seasons of... Oh, Larry, someone needs to light my candle in here. Okay, so what are we talking about?
Baby, light my candle.
We're talking about Enterprise, right? And
Carbon Creek's about the only go covert I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, Section 31 is in there too. But
there's once or twice they're acting like they're doing the Prime Directive and they don't know it yet, and they're incognito on a planet. But bleh. Okay.
Dan's got an example that kind of harkens back to First Duty, and that's First Flight.
Yeah, I kind of thought of First Flight.
Yeah,
but they're performing their jobs, which is, I guess, what we're saying.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Test pilots.
I think it's test pilots are a really good example as it relates to the counselor's log. So hopefully I'll put a pin in this and come back to this. But test pilots are a really, really good example here, which Archer is. So absolutely. Libby, 5,000. Why am I struggling? 525,200 Vulcans. How many Vulcans? Ponfar seasons of. Oh, this makes sense. This whole song would make sense. Seasons of Love, Ponfar.
In a bar with Kanar and Damar. Yeah, see, and plus you can
back now. There. We're talking about a very different kind of show.
Or is that a bridge too far? Okay.
And Andrew over here talking about, speaking of candle lighting, TNG's Sub Rosa.
Oh, okay. It's just the spark of creativity that keeps on giving.
Oh my gosh!
If we have any new folks with us this morning, they've all
left. They've all left.
What? All left. It's a bridge too far for them. That's what it is. Okay.
I agree that with Libby, Quark's Bar would make a great musical. 100%. Okay. Larry, anything you want to talk about with Star Trek Discovery? I think it kind of jump-started
our target. Yeah.
Lower Decks.
You know what? I didn't get it out. We've talked about it. I meant to give you an image from Stardust City. We mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, we talked about Stardust City.
And we've had
with
Stardust
Picard.
City as an example before of high stakes, bad high stakes. Because eventually they're found out rather easily. But then it shifts from the obvious stupid role playing to role playing covertly, like turning on Seven. That whole thing about offering up Seven as a throwing away their morals and just going for whatever, and that's what appeals to Bjayzl and her thug, her minion. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So they actually kind of like shift gears. They go with the obvious over the top performance, and then they shift down to, okay, you got us. You know what we're doing, and then they go in for the
Yeah.
boy am I behind.
Yeah.
So as Lower Decks, I was tired, but going, oh my God, they're impersonating something of. There was the one that we were just watching it, the one where the mission where I've got it. It's not Wej Douge, although I love that title. It's the trial that's not a trial. It's really a party.
We go back to that example so many times.
They're always trying to, but all the Lower Deckers are trying to remember the covert. They have no idea what the covert mission they were all on with, arriving on the bird of prey.
Right. The memory sort of keeps blanking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Rutherford's. They were on something and they were performing. They just have no clue what they were doing.
Yeah.
Except Tendi. Tendi knows, and she's not talking.
Yeah. That episode is great. We often reference it. You could say our season finale of season 1, or the penultimate episode. I'm sorry, the penultimate episode, Mariner's story, when they're in the holodeck. Larry, what's
the Rise of Invicta?
Rise of Invicta.
Well, that's the movie. It's got another name. Crisis Point is the name.
Crisis
of the
Point. Yeah. That's there's a bit of
how do they get high stakes in Crisis Point? Okay.
There's a bit of a high stakes performance there. And again, an episode I know we talk a lot about. We keep coming back to that one. And we've got Prodigy. I think that just leaves Prodigy, right? Star Trek Prodigy. High stakes performance here,
which felt like they were all performing. Well, Gwen's performance of being, I think, where do we go with this?
Holographic Janeway does a pretty good performance towards the end of that season, pretending to be, like mirror universe Janeway a little bit there. That was fun to see. These examples. Okay, let's just before we cut to the counselor's log here. People are sharing their examples of musicals with the Star Trek twist. So Les Mis reimagined as a Maquis massacre.
Well, they had the whole Jabbar and what's his name? They were Cisco and Eddington were modeled on the two of them.
Yeah. No,
in the writers. Did they talk about
Prisoner 642? You have broken for Federation Code number 72.
Maquis. Yeah. Okay.
One more day, another pad delivery. Oklahoma, as a post-war Cardassian and Bajoran story.
Oh, the Cardis and the Bajorans can be friends. Oh, the Bajorans and the Cardis can be friends.
Oh, Bajor with your beautiful hummus thing that is spicy.
Okay, this is where I pull my native card and say, stop now. Okay.
We also had Jarrod said they should remake
Wicked.
Wicked.
God is dead. Okay. No.
They should remake Wicked about a Romulan who enters the Vulcan Science Academy. Oh, that's interesting. Defying Vulcan code. Let's see. The Klingon version of Hamilton. Dun 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 dun. dun. How does a bastard orphan, son of a Moog, forgotten in the earth, go on to become one of the most strongest Starfleet officers? Something.
You've never heard Hamilton until you've heard it in the original. Yeah.
Oh,
Whoa. No, did you hear my idea of everyone in the audience is given spittoons so they don't drown in Hamilton? Klingon rap, wouldn't that be? Yeah.
I would love to see
I know we've heard about a Klingon punk band recently. Acid punk, what do they talk about? Yeah.
Fiddler on the Roof, but with Klingons. See, the problem with that, Rebecca, is you can do that to any Broadway show, and it's gonna, The Music Man, but with Klingons. You could do that with with any Broadway show, and it significantly improves upon it. Um,
Marion Contrarian. I don't know. I'm just.
oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! All right. Yeah, as Charlotte says, I was gonna say anything's better with Klingons. This is true. Larry, how about we open up that counselor's log?
How about we?
Let's open up the counselor's log. This is a part of the show where we do a little bit deeper dive into some of the psychology behind what we're talking about. And this week's episode is all about high stakes performances, Larry. And I want to just speak a little bit to something that a field in psychology that not a lot of people know about, and that's sports psychology.
I was going to guess that.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to performances, it's situations where your goal can be measured in some way, like you might be scored. So sports like Ambu Jitsu, the greatest test of cunning and guile in all of the Federation. It could be a sport.
Is this the Ferengi play-by-play guy for Ambojitsu?
The problem is I started to think about Riker when he says Klingon guile in that other episode. So my neurons got crossed there. But situations where your performance is measured, like a sporting event or like a test. We didn't mention the Kobayashi Maru because at this point, many series in Star Trek have mentioned the Kobayashi Maru. Like also recently, in the last year, was it? We had 2 different episodes about the Kobayashi Maru from 2
well,
episodes.
The animations can't resist. But yeah. Yes.
No, it's a lot. Did Lower Decks also do the Kobayashi Maru, or is it just Prodigy?
I thought there was at least a throwaway.
I think I think we had, Anyways, that qualifies.
Right now there's a throwaway reference to everything in Lower Decks, but okay.
That's true. So sports tests are example of performance. Theater, and then other situations where a group of people or an individual might be evaluating you. So theater is an example. We had this example cracked me up. Dan mentioned Ode to Spot and the many performances of classical music in TNG. Do they count? Yes, absolutely they count. And these are situations where, just look at Barkley trying to do Beverly's.
Picard was a pretty strict captain. I was going to say life and death, but oh yeah. I'm sorry, Ensign, but your oboe performance was not up to par. I'm transferring you.
Number 1, reduce that cadet to number 2 chair of oboe. So those absolutely do count. So all of these kinds of situations where...
Core on Organia, because of all that artistic side of the Klingons we don't think about. I'm back on Errand of Mercy. Commander, I'm sorry for my poor performance. Lieutenant, you are reduced 2 steps. I screw up. Lieutenant, you're reduced 2 chairs in rank. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm like.
Please proceed, Governor.
I'm like crying here from laughter that I'm trying to hide. So, and how we were talking about with a lot of the holodeck episodes, where they need to follow in a certain way. They are being judged by whether it's by the computer trying to make sure they're following the storyline, all of that sort of stuff. So all of these situations where you're being scored or where you're being evaluated by others based on how you're performing, these can be high stakes performances. And we all encounter them, whether it's doing a presentation for work or school, or you and me here doing this live stream, Larry. I don't know how high stakes this is at this time, but we are performing. You betcha we're performing. Sometimes, Larry, you do that. I feel
Pretty
like
high.
the sky is about to fall down on you.
I'm just looking at those stakes up there. Wow.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
So in these kind of situations, sports psychology is a field that has emerged that really helps people when they're trying to do high stakes performances for sports, and similar strategies are used for people who might struggle with things like test anxiety, where you might you might really struggle with that kind of performance. And there's two main things I want to talk about here, and then I'll get to our away mission in a little bit, where you can apply some of this. But the two of the big ways in which sports psychologists help people. One is really being able to help them with their mind-body connection. So in a lot of sports where your performance is very small, where your entire everything you do might be seconds long.
Yeah.
There's some sports where it's all in like 10 seconds. Yeah. Or 30 seconds or a minute or maybe a couple of minutes, right? Everything there really comes down to helping the athletes to breathe in an optimal way. I mean, some of the to some degree, where people are learning to perform a maneuver in between breaths, so they have more steadiness. Like for example, shooting is an event in the Olympics, and athletes are trained to pull a trigger in between breaths so that their breath does not change the hold that they have. So in a lot of the shorter term programs or shorter term sports, much of the focus is on breathing optimally, moving your body optimally, so it enhances your performance. But then in the longer performances, this is true of theater, this is true of sports. A lot of what sports psychologists do, and a lot of what a therapist would do to help you with your test anxiety, is focusing attention. What makes these things high stakes is what can also really hamper performance. If you're thinking about, well, the whole weight of the alpha quadrant is on this decision, or getting back to Discovery, this week's episode, All In, how I act here is going to impact whether or not millions of people die or not, right? If you get stuck thinking about that, your performance actually declines. You don't do as well. You don't think as clearly. Anyone who's ever experienced test anxiety can tell you this. If the weight of how you answer a question it makes you feel like my grade is on the line, my future is on the line, whether I'm a success or not is on the line, you are very much hindered by all of that.
My grandkids think of me.
Yes, yeah, right.
That aren't born.
Your ability to remember what the answer is or to perform in the way you've practiced, it's all hindered by all of that. So much of what sports psychologists do is help you to learn how to focus on the things that you can control. They do a lot of training to help you think of words or things that you can say to yourself to help you to stay grounded back in this moment. They do a lot of practicing and rehearsal of, okay, well, what if this scenario happens? What if this scenario happens? How can you get back to your training, get back to zoning out the crowd, the consequences, the scoring, and remember the exact basics of what you have to do. It's a lot of what sports psychologists do and what everyone does here. And I know we have a lot of theater people here, yourself included, Larry. I'm wondering, what did you get? I know way back, but what did you ever encounter this like fear from the audience looking at you? And if so, how did you manage that to perform?
I don't really remember. Nothing was ever so shaky. No, I feel like we always had a good enough rehearsal. In collegiate theater, we'd have a month or two rehearsal. I don't ever remember feeling, shaky that way. Now there have been I can't pull anything right off the top of my head, but there are times when whether it was a full bore performance, I mean that's the kind of thing your nightmares are made of when
Yeah.
you feel like you've been thrown onto stage and oh I'm gonna have to go on for some. Even when I was directing a show at KU in my graduate program, and one of my actors, it was a satirical comedy, and one of the actors had a thing with what is it when you don't have enough chocolate? Anyway, he had the
When you don't
reaction
have
where
enough chocolate?
he had too much chocolate. What is it? I've gone blank. It's the blood. Anyway,
Oh,
he couldn't
oh.
he couldn't perform, and it was like a
An
dress
iron
rehearsal.
deficiency? Are you talking about
Huh?
that? Are you
No, it's like he had to keep. He didn't tell me, but he had to keep chocolate bars.
Is he
He had
diabetic?
Hershey bars backstage to keep his blood sugar up or
So
whatever.
probably diabetic.
Yeah, I guess. Or so,
Yeah.
anyway, it was something where he could collapse if he didn't have.
Yeah.
Anyway, he had an episode on like the final dress when we had an audience, and I was like, "What do I do? What do I do?" And my graduate advisor said, "Just get a script and go out there and be him." Like so, I wore his. He was a general,
Hmm.
and I put on his general jacket, and I had the script, but I had directed it, so it's like I knew the show. I had been with it for months, and I went through it, well over three-fourths of the show and never looked at the script, which was kind of amazing. But there was one scene that I knew he and the other lead had struggled with. And when we came off, the other actor's like, "Oh my God, Larry, that was the best time we've ever done that scene." And I was like, "Shh, don't tell, don't tell what's his face when he comes back." But that was that was kind of a, but yeah, it was, there's always, the more preparation, the better. So I don't,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't remember that. Now when you're thrown, or more in the guise of when you're hosting or you're interviewing and you don't rehearse those. I've had some high stakes interview moments either in front of a big audience or live, like some things, and and it's somebody I don't know already, but there's a lot of performance. There's a performance element that, interviewing just used to be interviewing, but where there's an audience and you're trying to either entertain people with the interview or the interaction, that's been that's been dicey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you don't get a chance to rehearse. You just have to go on your skill to pull it out of your butt and make a connection with the person in the moment and go. That's scary. That has been scarier to me than back in the day when would be, performing.
Yeah, I remember hearing an interview a few years ago with, I think it might have been either with all of the child leads of Harry Potter, or it might have been just Daniel Radcliffe. It might have been just Daniel Radcliffe, actually. And so this is him as an adult, many years removed from doing Harry Potter. And someone asked him about, what's it been like to be in front of all these crowds and all of that sort of stuff, like your whole life. And he said, it's like ever since I started, this started with such fanfare. It's not like this is a thing that built up a following over time. When he started playing the role of Harry Potter, it was already a worldwide phenomenon. And so he just got very used to being in front of massive audiences as if this is a normal thing. So for him, this performance was just kind of the norm. And I think about that example as someone who has just done something many times, has had a lot of practice with it. It starts to feel normal, and it starts to feel like every day. And it's, again, like thinking about the Olympics or thinking about the Super Bowl, a lot of times if you start thinking more about how abnormal this is, that this is more unique or more different than anything else you've done, then you might get in your head, and then you might start overthinking it. And then it gets back to like focus on the immediate task at hand. If you're a performer in a show and the president is there in the audience, if you keep thinking about that, you're gonna get in your head, and you're gonna forget your training and forget what to do. So it gets back to over and over again, focus on your training, Focus on what is the immediate thing you have to do. Focus on that task and not the consequences, not the high stakes. If you focus on the high stakes, your performance is going to decline. And that takes practice, Larry. It takes practice to do that. You know what I want to hear about? I want to hear about some real life examples from behind the scenes of high stakes performances, Larry. That means.
Why? Oh, you mean on me? Oh, okay.
I mean on you. I would love a K3. I don't want a K1. I don't want a K2. I don't want a K4.
You know what? You're not good enough for a K4, but I think a K3 is just the thing. Yeah. So if we do still have any newbies left this morning, K3 is the time of the show when I do what Ali just did, only going deep diving into Star Trek for our theme today. And you know what? There's lots of, when we say high stakes performances, there are times when actors have, and it's not live theater, so, they're filming scene at a time. But I know there's 2 or 3 instances of Shatner being, his father died and he went ahead and filmed the rest of the day's filming on Devil in the Dark, or there's times when people have been, who was it, stung by a bee? I think Susan Oliver was stung by a bee, or no, the original Hot Lips. I've gone blank on her name. Dana from Word on Man. Anyway, there's, performance like that, but usually when I think of high stakes performances under duress, time is the element. Time is the fire in which writers burn too. And the one that I always, and maybe I've mentioned this before, so if I have everybody, I know I've mentioned it at different venues, but the one that always was amazing to me was not only like the initial incidents, but it's almost like you have a control. It's almost like you're running an experiment because you had the same people involved in 2 different situations. One situation, well, take a look. Go ahead and pop the first one up there. I found this. So I used this, not some of my own photography, but this is a film clip. This is probably from
look so young.
This is a 1994 Brandon and Ron here. And Brandon, but Ron, when his hair is cut that short, he looks like Dayton Ward, don't you think? There's only been a couple of times when Ron had his hair that short, and even then when he had it short, he had it fluffier around the edges. Anyway, they're doing press here, I'm sure, for Star Trek Generations.
Yeah.
Which they got the invitation to write. They were kind of the up and coming stars of Next Generation, especially when Rick made it a contest, and he asked Michael Piller and he asked Maury Hurley, who had written earlier, as a hedge, because they were doing the first movie. He was doing his first movie to produce and the first Next Gen movie, and he was kind of hedging his bets. And he asked 3 different writers to write a script. So Piller said was his co-showrunner and doing DS9, and Michael said, I'm not auditioning for this. Either ask me to do it or not. I'm not competing for it. So he didn't. Maury Hurley did. I don't know, maybe by then he was needing the money. I don't know. And his was rejected. So the young boys, talk about youth here, the boys' script was accepted, their story idea was accepted, and they worked on it. Now they had, can you put up the first, let's run through these. And I hope these are readable for everybody. So this is the first draft of Star Trek The Next Generation, the movie. Can you, now if we can't pan down to the bottom, these are going to be worthless.
I can pan.
Okay. There we go. Scroll down. So the movie comes out right at the holidays of 94, right? So this is roughly a year and a half ahead of time. They've gone through the story stage already. This is the first draft script. So there you go. That was July 93. Now they had like a year and a half ish to work on it, right? And I even threw some more up here because this was also when I was working on the companion and I was trying to do this. So I don't have a second draft, but there's a third draft from October 1st, 90. You get an idea, right? The fourth draft, see, it's still, and if you go back to the top, it's still being called Star Trek The Next Generation, the movie. The fourth draft is January 28th. It comes out later that year. And there's a control number on that script. That was script 35. So finally, and then you can see the next stage. Next slide. There's the fancy cover on the script that they did.
With the logo.
So the first filming.
I love
the final
logo.
draft is a little more.
It won't let me go more. Oh my gosh! But the final draft
March
is
16th, isn't it?
March 16th, 1994.
The final draft for shooting is March 16th, but even then, they're making changes. And obviously, the big change is they redo the ending, the shoot, at the end, and they're racing I sent that one to you too. But
When
if you
was
can't,
this? When was it being? When did it go into production? When were they filming?
well, it was been production as in the prep had been happening. There you go. Now that's all. That's the title page. That's the final draft. But there you can see all the color changes. It went through the color wheel once. It'd come back around to blue. So there's the final draft. But if you go back to the top, this is the title page after like 11 sets of change pages inside. See?
Wow.
That's what a final draft script. If you're collecting scripts, you know that you might have a final draft and the upper right corner over there is blank, or at least the way Star Trek did it in the 90s. But as you add color change pages, they track them up there.
Yeah.
And they'd gone around. But so after they filmed, they were tweaking it out. And the last three, there was a clump there, like there was a month gap when they rewrote the ending. And so Kirk doesn't die by getting shot in the back. He gets he gets killed with Anyway, the point there is they had a year and a half to work on that. And even then, people know it had problematical issues, right? Now, at the same time, they're writing that while they're still doing their day jobs working on the TV show, on the staff of that, the last season. And they're working with Jarrod. Michael has kind of stepped back, but he steps back in at the end to help them out with the wrap-up and the finale. But it's Jerry and Narain Shankar's on staff there, and then they've got their freelancers. And the rest of the staff who are distracted by the movie are working really hard, but they're still having to do their day jobs, and they've got 3 or 4 or 5 scripts they're working on through the year. So this was like their night job. This was their side hustle, working on the movie, which is amazing when people want to critique Generations for all the hopes and dreams that it carried. At the same time, as the year went along, they got the assignment to do the finale for Next Generation, which was also basically a 2-hour thing. So if you think about that, now the first draft that I have of All Good Things, there we go, boom. So this is the first draft from February.
February 1894.
So they've worked on the story already with the whole staff. They've broken the story, and this is the first draft script, okay? Yeah. So then they've got, they get a long a ways through, and they've had it working it, and Michael Piller jumps back in and says, I don't like the second half of the script. It's not up to par. So if you go to that next one there, it's a title page from the final draft. So that was February 18th. So they put the final draft there's the red cover, came out on basically.
It came out March 10th, 1994.
March 10th. So they had like less than a month to go from first draft to final draft.
That's
and then
wild.
That was changed.
That is wild.
But they had a month. And here's the thing. In the first draft, they don't go and get Riker's big honky future Federation of Enterprise D with the 3 nacelles and can go warp 13 because they've redone the scale, blah, blah, blah. They don't do that. They go and get the Enterprise D out of mothballs at a museum. There's basically a hysterical scene where they go on a tour of the Enterprise with a tour guide, and then they go through engineering, and Geordi and Data are going, there's a little lithium left in the chamber. Okay. They're all like muttering under their breath, and the tour guide keeps saying, could you step away from that, please? Could you not touch please don't touch the chair. So it's really funny. And Michael said, I think this is a little too much. And so they pulled it. Anyway, but that month that you saw there, they madly rewrote half of All Good Things and turned it around to shoot it. So, and there's the final. See, you see that gap? No, So they're like rewriting bits and pieces, but the rough stuff was at the very beginning. But the main gap there was in the month between the first draft and the final draft startup. So the point here is it was an insane month for them. And they were also like working on pages for the movie. So if you talk about peak performance, if you talk about pressure, they've got the pressure of the first movie, right? That's going to blow up in the public's eye if everything doesn't go well. Plus, they're trying to end the last season. And, Next Generation finally got nominated for an Emmy as a production. So, and there they are at that time. So you talk about youth and all of that. If nothing else, it's just the endurance of being able to hold that. And the ultimate irony is people say, my God, they wrote All Good Things in like a month or two. There was a year and a half to write Generations. And many people will say, even though it's TV versus film, that All Good Things is more satisfying overall than Generations. Some people might quibble with that or say they're about the same. But so when you talk about high stakes performances, even though it's not a 10-second window like we were talking about with athletes and performers, that always comes to mind to me. And just, it's like a controlled experiment too. You can.
It is wild. It is wild to know that they were working on both at the same time, and both are very high stakes.
Right.
You're ending The Next Generation, which to date was the best in terms of ratings of all the Star Treks.
Mm-hmm.
And you're ending that, and then you're also tasked with transitioning the film franchise from the original series to the next, and somehow trying to satisfy what happens when Kirk and Picard meet. What? That's a lot of pressure.
And the script they wrote for Generations, they had this laundry list of things they have to do.
That's what I was going to ask you. They weren't. I remember reading that Ron Moore and Brandon Braga were tasked with destroying the Enterprise, with killing Kirk, with having them meet. Yeah, and tying up the loose ends of Lursa and Betor. The motion chip for Data. Like, they were given this list of things that need to happen in this film.
Right. And having a year and a half to work on that, and then they weren't told to kill Kirk off. They were told to have a high stakes, thing for Kirk. And part of the way along, they went, well, we should kill him. I mean, it was their decision. And then they sat down at the time. Now Shatner loves to talk about how maybe that wasn't the best idea. But in the day, they were really nervous about having these two 30-year-olds with a legend. This is 1994. There is no bloody Janeway Sisko, any Michael Burnham star anywhere. It's just original and next gen, and those kids on DS9 barely started. And they talked about sitting down in the meeting with Shatner and go, okay, okay, here's what we'd like to do in the movie. So we want to do this, and we want to do this and this, and then we want to kill you off. He's like, okay. It's kind of like if it's done dramatically, Spock had been killed off and brought back. But at the time, it was kind of like, okay, well, let's just do it well. Well, oops, failed that. But
yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, at least he died on a bridge. At least there's that. Glenn says Generations was the Kobayashi Maru of Star Trek script writing and production. It's a no-win scenario regarding the killing of Kirk. Larry, were they given any? Do you know if they were giving any requirements for the TNG finale? Like, Q must be in here, or we got to have Tasha in here. Or...
Well, I mean, the TV situation was they all broke a story together, and one of them had the idea of Q as a bookend, and it's even Q the judge and Q in the post-atomic horror court. But it was like, let's do this as a bookend to the pilot, with 7 years of hindsight. Let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah, which, it's a little bit of a creative focus, but still gives them a lot of creative leeway.
Oh, right. And I mean, they were talking about how do we pay homage to, like, people, at the beginning, like O'Brien as a baby character and Tasha. How can we get her back? And they actually had four time scenarios at one point. I think one of them was like right after Best of Both Worlds, or or either during or right after Best of Both Worlds. And they finally said, okay, this is too much. So they just had it. They just went to a clean 3.
Yeah.
Comedy rule of 3, Star Trek rule of 3. Before he takes command, at the present, and then past, present, future, not two pasts, present, and future.
It's a beautiful episode. I think it set the standard for what a Star Trek finale can be. It was also the first time we got to see we got to see a series finale. I mean, there's only been 3 series at this point, original, animated, Next Generation.
See
Um,
yeah.
uh,
Well, and those first two don't. They didn't have finales. They
no,
didn't think of it that way. It's like, oh, didn't get canceled. Oh well, we're out of here. Yeah.
no, yeah, yeah. Um,
It was different. It was a different time.
it was a different time. Um,
Yeah.
it was a different time. I mean, I guess we had Undiscovered Country as a finale for the original series
Yeah. Yeah.
cast. I guess you can kind of make that argument. Um,
And you
I
kind of want to think of All Good Things as their finale, not Nemesis.
Yeah, I
Well,
really
it
like
might
this
play out
K3.
hard.
I like this K3, Larry, because I I always want to remind people
Did I
too.
surprise you?
No, because I know I know you surprised me in terms of the specific dates here when some of the stuff happened.
Rommel, read your damn book. Oh, okay. You,
No, this is a story. I mean, aspects of this story I like to share with people who do criticize generations. I want to remind them that the exact same people wrote All Good Things and wrote also First Contact. That it shows it's a lot of external factors that might have been beyond their control led to aspects of Star Trek Generations. We know that these people are capable of writing All Good Things in First Contact. And I think that just shows also how much of a collaborative experience film and TV is. You can't blame just one person on the success or failure of these things. There's a lot of things at play. So I appreciate that,
yeah,
Larry.
I mean, if you want to jump on the rewrite and having the bridge fall on him because the shot in the back didn't work, in a perfect world, they could have come up with everything. But talk about a ticking clock. They had a diminishing window. They had to be out in December. Time was getting away. They had invested all these pieces, all this setup. They couldn't just go refilm the last fourth of the movie and come out next year. That wasn't an option. So they had to take the mountain. They had to take those 3 characters and that mountain and do something with that.
Yeah.
That's basically where they were.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's transition to an away mission here, and I know we're over time, but we also started late. That was my fault. I had a parenting hurdle, high stake performance. I had to.
We
overcome.
technically have 6 minutes left for we're at 2 hours.
Yeah, that's true. So I'll make it quick here, folks. The high stakes performances we all engage in are probably different than Kirk, Picard, and company, as well as different than Olympians and all of that we've kind of discussed. But we do encounter these things, not every day, but probably on some regular basis. The times where we need to perform either on a test or in front of other people. So I'd encourage people to do 2 things, 2 lessons that we can take from sports psychologists. The first one is to really think about what are all your fears of what might happen in this situation, and then really create plans for that. So a lot of times when people they're doing a high stake presentation, maybe on Zoom or maybe in person, they might be afraid of, I'm going to forget everything, or I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm going to say the wrong thing. Okay, write down those situations, and then what's a plan or what's something you can do if that occurs? If you're afraid of forgetting everything, can you have notes with outlines of the main points that you want to make? If you're afraid of saying something foolish or saying the wrong thing, okay, what's something you can say if that occurs? We do that all the time on this show, Larry. We turn some kind of fake word we said into a little bit of a joke and we keep going, So really,
maybe you do. I just make it a point never to mess up.
Just rewind this episode to the beginning. So really playing out what are the what if scenarios and what's a plan that you can have to address those things. And then the second thing I would say is when you start to get in your head about all the high stakes, about everything that's really scaring you about this, get back to what it's about controlling your attention. And the thing you can ask yourself is, what's under my control right now? What can I control? So when people are struggling with test anxiety, I often help them to remember, okay, what are some test taking strategies? You're stuck on this question, skip it. You can come back to this one. Sometimes you can't skip on electronic tests, but if you're taking a paper test, you often can. If you're stuck on this question, okay, remember your test taking strategies. What's under your control? What options, if it's multiple choice, what options can you eliminate here? Turn it from a 1 to 4 situation to a 1 and 2. There's always some things that are under your control whenever you're performing, and getting back to those things that are under your performance. That's going to help you here. Those are two things I think we can all take with us. We can always use. Sometimes people are afraid of getting a tough question when they're making a presentation. And there, I often tell people, what's under your control? Well, how you respond to that question. You can always say, that is a really great question. I don't know the answer to that right now, but I'm going to reflect on that. I'm going to get back to you. Who doesn't love hearing that they have a really good question that has sort of stumped the person? There's always things that you have under your control, and focusing on that can help you to do your best in these high stake performances.
Yeah. It's like taking the soliton wave and riding it instead of, or the wave they just talked about recently on Discovery. Take the wave and ride it instead of trying to, defeat it.
Exactly. Let's open up those hailing frequencies just for a few minutes here, folks. There's a few fun comments I want to get back to. Nathaniel,
I was trying to catch up. Go.
Nathaniel said when we made the transition to Voyager, he said you missed Rom's entire life. Yeah. I mean, he's a character we talk about all the time, so we could have focused a lot more. We did mention the spatula. We did mention.
Yes, we did. We did. I saw a lot of people presaging things we got too. I'm just stuck here in the middle of all the musicals.
There's so many examples people gave.
Scott had Mamma Mia, but with Deltons.
I can't even imagine.
And then Libby said middle-aged female Deltons. Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Just so many here, guys, gals.
Charlotte said, on the topic of mishearing lyrics, for most of my young life, I thought the words to Tiny Dancer was, hold me closer, Tiny Dancer.
I LOL'd literally on that, Charlotte, when I saw it.
A good friend of mine thought Let It Be was Letter B. Like, let her be, let her be, let her be, let her be. Whisper words of wisdom, let her be.
I'm surprised that Sesame Street never did that.
They did. They're actually, okay. My wife used to work for Sesame Street. We got a vinyl version. She did. When we were in New York. She got a vinyl version of the Sesame Street album, which was which was Abbey Road, but with Sesame Street characters. And instead of letter B, they had Elmo doing letter B.
Okay.
And we gave that to my friend.
Was she Was she on the production, or was she like in spin-off, like licensing or marketing? Or
she was involved in some of their online media stuff, and we did get good at the set though. So I got to meet Elmo, and Oscar, which was a real highlight. I saw Big Bird. I didn't get to meet Big Bird. Big Bird was always my favorite, so I was
But Big Bird was in his regenerating alcove.
Big Bird was protected by his handlers. I couldn't get close to Big Bird. There's another one here. Nathaniel asked a question: how different are high-stake performances when they're contests and concerts versus standardized tests? Nathaniel, it depends on the individual. So contests and concerts and standardized tests, how much that matters to the individual. So if that individual sees a standardized test as having a huge impact on their future, it's a high-stakes contest, a high-stakes situation. If the contest is a part of the person's livelihood or is really important to them, it's high stakes. If the concert is really important to them in their career, high stakes. It depends on the individual here.
Okay.
Larry,
I'm just sparing all the siren. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. That's okay.
Probably did a bad job of it.
Libby says, "I want to go to Sesame Street." Well, I can tell you how to get to Sesame Street. Libby, it's actually located in Queens. It is filmed in Queens, the sound stages.
Can
Same place, same studio where they filmed Orange is the New Black. Actually, it was right next door.
wow. Can I just say that not only did I see Sesame Street, I watched Sesame Street on the first day.
Yeah.
I can even tell you what the plot was. The original Gordon and Susan, the black couple.
Yeah.
It was Gordon, Susan, Bob, and Mr. Hooper. That was the original live cast. But Bob has a little girl and she's lost. And while she's trying to get back to her parents, he takes her around and it was the pilot. He takes her around and introduces her to everybody and hopes that somebody will have a idea of where she was from. But not only did I see the first episode 1, the weekend before Friday, that was like on a Monday. On the weekend before, all 3 networks that were commercial ran a launching Sesame Street special. Like it was an explanation of it, and they all did. It wasn't like an episode; it was a behind the scenes, because it was so radically different, and people were so excited about it, about using TV to reach, inner city and lower income kids, and level out the educational opportunity, and get kids caught up before they got to first grade or kindergarten. That the 3 networks all did like a daytime. It was weekend, did a day, and I watched those. So.
I did not know that. I know it was a big deal, and it was such a culmination of the work that Jim Henson had really put there as well. Frank Oz also being involved. A lot of those greats when it comes to.
But I mean, the Children's Television Workshop was this big, 60s progressive idea of how to reform a lot of the inequities of kids from different backgrounds.
Yep. Comment from Charlotte. She says, "Speak for yourself, Ali. You have never tried running an actor training program. You clearly have never tried. It's hella high stakes, if for no other reason than theater people never leave the drama on stage." So to that, Charlotte, one of the things about
how old were they, Charlotte, and did they have drama parents involved?
Larry, you were talking about how much rehearsals really help when it comes to performance. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that's really effective with rehearsals is you not only want to be in the external environment where you're rehearsing, like dress rehearsal, where you are in dress, in costume, at the place where you're going to be performing. All of those things are important. The other thing that's important too, Larry, the internal environment. Having some of your nerves fired up, having your heart racing. It's important for you to be used to those internal sensations as much as the external sensations. So
use the butterflies.
Exactly.
Yes.
You need the so Charlotte, you're right here. You want to be feeling those high stakes. You want to be feeling that high energy so that when it's actually happening, you're not surprised by it. You're used to it. Really, really important for that. It's very true of athletes as well.
At least young actors and college actors, I'll say, the biggest time for screw-ups and getting sloppy is the second night. If you had a great opening night, and especially if you have like a limited, it's not like Broadway where you've got maybe you're hoping for weeks and months to run, but like on a college or a community show where you're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 performances, and you have a great opening night, and everybody, it's like, oh, well, we can do no wrong, and then you let your concentration slip.
Yep.
And the second night was the second night let down, and then you're going, okay, we won't do that again, and then the third, But it's like you have to learn. It's a different ensemble, it's a different mix of people every time. But it's like you had to learn that over and over and over again.
I think it's also the trick of matinee shows too. It's a different time of day. It's a completely different experience. You have to bring those high stakes. Larry, we've got a couple of announcements we should give. So next week we have a special time that we're doing the show, right, Larry?
Oh, that's right. We're going to go an hour. What are we doing? An hour earlier?
No, we're doing
noon. We're doing noon.
Right. We're doing a 12 p.m. noon Pacific time. So you might be in a different place in the world. So we're going to be doing the show 2 hours later. than we usually do it. The reason for that is, Larry, you're going to be traveling next week, right?
I'm going to be traveling down the street, down the freeway to
Yep.
Gallifrey 1. If anybody, I don't think anybody else, if anyone in the audience is going to be there, look me up. I'm not tabling because Gallifrey 1 is in a half-size footprint this year because of COVID planning, but they're going live for the first time since the eve of the pandemic. This is the Doctor Who con that's so huge that's always here in LA. It's usually about 4,000 people, but they're half of that. There'll be a lot less tables, all of that, but still Who things and who all those genre things. And I'm usually there repping Trek, and I have a couple of panels, one on Saturday morning, one on Friday or Sunday morning. So I'll definitely be there Saturday, Sunday. And if you're there, come say hi. But because of the 10 o'clock Saturday panel that I'm on, which is the Token Trek panel, we've moved the show, or 11, I think. We've moved the show to noon. So I'm going to get off of the panel, race over, get on, fire up my Zoom and whatever machine here. Zoom, not Zoom, Skype. And Restream and join you all. So I'll be on as quick as I can, hopefully in time for noon.
Yeah,
we'll do a regular show at noon.
And
so we'll be 2 hours later at our original time we started at.
Yeah, 2 hours later than our original time, and also we're gonna make it a fun one. We're gonna do a watch along. So let us know right now what your requests are for the watch along. We can do a 2-parter. That would be a lot of fun. We won't be doing a movie because the last one we did the motion picture, and that was long. But we can do,
and we don't have to do a 2-parter. We can do a 1 hour.
We can do a 1 hour. So. Let us know what your requests are in these comments, wherever they might be. We'd love to hear from your comments.
Or on the Facebook, we'll put a post on the Facebook page, and if you're not there, please go like the Facebook page.
And Larry, you got some. There's something cooking at Trekland.
Yeah, I don't set this. I kind of lost track of it the last few months. But my store on TeePublic, where we have Life Support Live stuff and other things from my other brands, everything is on. This is their big sale when it's like the 35% off sale. So the T-shirts or whatever, whatever it says there, $12, $13. And everything is like 35% off. So it's not just shirts. It's stickers and pillows and magnets and mugs. Not these pint glasses. These pint glasses are $10, and you have to do me, and I have to mail these. But TeePublic has everything else, and you can see there. Computer bags or computer pads. So yeah, it ends tonight. It's a weird one. Why they're ending at midnight Saturday, I don't know. But there you go. I wanted to throw that out there.
And with that, Larry,
How about you, Ali? What's going on with you?
Oh, what's going on with me? Oh, something is coming up.
What is up with you?
Yeah, a documentary I made. I didn't make. I'm in it. We filmed this back in 2018, and it's called Just Like You, Anxiety and Depression. This is a film series that's really helping kids to understand how different conditions, they're just like you, and how to help people with these conditions. And they made a version on anxiety and depression, and it's coming out in just a few weeks. Took a while to get a distributor and get the final cut, but it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be on iTunes, on Amazon, Google Play, all those places. I'll post a link later here, but that's coming out in just a few weeks. So really happy with that project. If you have a young child in your life, or you know someone who experiences anxiety or depression, this is going to be just a great film for you to be able to show and help kids understand how to be a good friend to someone else who experiences anxiety and depression. So really proud of that. Made it a long time ago, and it's finally coming out. So I'll share the link
in the
to
before times. Wow.
In the before times, yeah, way long ago. So that'll be out soon, and beyond that, Larry, same old. You can find me at Ali Mattu on social media. The Psych Show on YouTube is my home in the tubes. Larry, what about you?
At Larry Nemecek on Twitter. Larry Nemecek's Trekland, where you're watching right now. Please like and subscribe on the YouTube. I'm trying to get my YouTube numbers up, so I started late. So yeah, I'm there every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Pacific-ish. Live support live. Trekland Tuesdays live is there, and every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcast, is the Trek Files. We're back in our 8th season, just started. And tune in for this. We're starting a disc. It's hard to communicate on our Trek Files audience on the Facebook. Apparently, it's not real conducive. So we're going to try an experiment. I'm launching a Discord channel for the Trek Files. It's about ready to go. I thought we'd have it this week. We're not quite there, but it'll be up very soon. So if you enjoy the Trek Files, we're going to try to build a better community around the Trek Files of interactivity. This is a high bar to match what we have here with our lifers. So,
well, folks, we'll see you next week at our special time. Live long and prosper, my friends.
Yes. 2 hours later, everybody. Trek well.